We're now recording. I think, should I just maybe I read it or something?
Yeah.
You just start from the
talk about what we got. Is this your general stuff over here? Oh, we gotta talk about the differences in the versions.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Oh yeah, okay. You just go over.
All right.
Because we'll just have a pause in between stuff, and we can edit it later.
Okay.
I can think in here, like the level rise is okay, right?
Okay. Let's hope you're better. You slashed. Okay.
It's not yellow yet, so.
All right. I'm Brad. I played the GameCube version of The Legend of Zelda: The Twilight Princess.
Yeah. I'm David. I was fortunate enough to get a Wii and play it on the Wii version, even though I played it a month later.
Okay.
Maybe even a couple of weeks after Brad finished his.
Which was fair enough because you shouldn't have gotten it a month earlier anyway.
Yeah, that's something we both talked about, I guess, is the fact that.
Yeah, maybe that's a good place to start it off.
Right. Exactly.
How much they jerked our chain with the great GameCube Zelda.
Yeah.
The great follow-up to Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, like we had a discussion before the game actually. That's funny that you have a Nintendo 64 keychain on your keys.
Mini discussions actually.
Yeah. And first of all, I think the first one I think I talked to you about was that the fact that why the GameCube version was being delayed, and I seem to be more like understanding with Nintendo wanting to sell more Wiis.
Well, I never had problems with the delays until I found out, because they told us before, like when when all these delays were occurring, that it was just because like the quality of the game, they don't want to rush it. They still got some things to work out, and it wasn't till. I mean,
you realized that they were putting the Wii controls in.
Actually, it wasn't until it wasn't until they officially announced that there's going to be a Wii version that there was even any inclination that it was because of the Wii controls, and
that's when, that's when we started having the argument / discussion.
The arguments. Well, I think that the postponing of the game to force feed Wii controls was kind of wrong for GameCube.
And that's something. That's something I don't think I understand what you're talking about until afterwards, after I beat the game or after I played it and talked to you, and we compared how the GameCube controlled to the Wii. Because you had told me multiple times before that you think that the Wii controls shouldn't be the focus of the entire game, for better or for worse.
Yeah. My argument is that for better or for worse, I don't want the Wii controls to be a distraction in the game.
Right, and I completely feel that that's what happened when I played the Wii version.
Yeah, basically the way it goes is, I mean, I read a lot of reviews or whatnot in magazines and stuff, and there's a lot of praise for both versions, but I noticed that when I read like the Wii reviews for the game, they're always talking about the controls. I mean, it's either oh, this game is great, it's got these great controls, or oh, the controls like pose problems, and they'll dock points because of it. I mean, bottom line is all Zelda's games have a certain like spirit to it, and I didn't want it to be a distraction. And I don't know what did you think, Dave?
Yeah, no, I think that actually happened to me, and like for me, I don't remember the music being extremely memorable or the storyline even, like the character Midna. I don't remember feeling a crazy like attachment to her or not.
Okay, well, on the topic of controls, do you think that was because you were playing the Wii version, or do you think...
Yeah, I mean, halfway through the game, I almost put down the Wii version completely and just bought the GameCube version just to start over again. But,
I mean, do you honestly think that your feelings for the story and the music or whatnot would have been different if...
Exactly, because the thing is, half the time I was either wowed by the controls, or I was frustrated by them. Like, for instance, I don't know if I explained it to you before, but, like, I think it, as far as... like control-wise, for the Wii version, it's a huge step backwards as far as like camera controls for the game. Because the whole time, there's been 4 3D Zeldas?
4 3D Zeldas.
Yeah, and we've talked about Ocarina of Time before, and how everyone always says it's a revolutionary Z-targeting
Oh, the
system.
Z-targeting. Maybe I should go into that real quick. My problems with it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, when it first came out on Ocarina of Time, people were talking, oh, this is great lock-on for a 3D game. You lock on and then you can strafe around, jump around, and, you have no problems with combat. But people talk about how revolutionary it was. First of all, I don't think it was the first like lock on, but that's not my problem with the Z targeting. Hasn't always been the fact that it's not a good lock on system. It was the fact that Nintendo decided to combine the lock on button with the same button that centers the camera behind Link. And I had problems with this because if you tried to lock onto something, and maybe if you were a little too far away or you were caught up in combat, it might straighten out the camera instead of locking on, or vice versa, which might throw you off. And it has improved, actually, with each subsequent 3D Zelda, and I was surprised to find it wasn't a problem for me at all, really, and the GameCube version of Twilight Princess. I think it's one of the reasons that this is one of my favorite 3D Zeldas.
And see, that's where all my problems begin, is because, for me, I think it's acceptable. It's not perfect in Ocarina, but for the time, for it being the first 3D Zelda and everybody's first kind of going into the 3D,
well,
it's very acceptable. But now, after playing the Wind Waker last time and having the C-stick and moving around, and then playing the Wii version and not having a C-stick, and not having anything to move the camera around,
exactly,
and just having the Z to target it.
Exactly, that's what I think it was. I think it's finally that the Wii version finally shows the problem of the combining of the lock-on with the camera centering, because you don't have that free camera.
Right. And
so now I think maybe you finally understand.
Yeah, for me,
my problem.
yeah, huge. For the entire game, I'd be either fighting somebody, and I'd be either like in a corner, or I'd be at a bad positioning, and I wouldn't be able to have any control over the camera to see what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And not even that is, sometimes I didn't even want to move. I wanted just to move the camera, and I'd try to run away and do something else, but I'd hit the Z targeting, and they'd target the nearest thing, whether it be a bad guy or an item or something that I could target on, and then I had no control over the camera.
Yeah, because the problem was they didn't have a free camera. The only way you can get the camera to look a certain way is to turn Link that direction and then press the button that makes the camera go behind Link.
And you could also do it, I mean, you could do it by pressing the other, I think it's the C button on the Wii, I'm not 100% sure. You could go into first-person mode, and then click back out of first-person mode, and the camera would be, would be centered behind you in whichever way you're looking. But, that's ridiculous for, the fourth game in the series to have to still do that.
It's frustrating.
Right, exactly. It was extremely frustrating.
Well, how did something like I mean, I don't want to go too off topic, but like Red Steel, that was a first-person shooter, so you had to move that camera around like actively. What are the differences between camera control in Red Steel and then Twilight Princess?
Well, Red Steel's kind of the exception because it's a first-person shooter, so you don't ever really have to, I think you can just look around in whatever direction you need to look around.
So it wasn't like that in Twilight Princess. If you move your pointer to the edge, it didn't move the camera?
No, the pointer just stayed on the screen. If you took your hand off the thing, the pointer would just stay at the edge of the screen where you were at last, and it would just sit there until your pointer came back.
I see, kind of like.
And that was one of my another annoying point about the pointer too, is that it's this little fairy that it's going around on the screen and twinkling. Yeah. And I wish all they had to do was make a volume button for the pointer, because you couldn't control how loud the pointer was. So I'd be sitting there, I'd be running, and the pointer would be kind of moving around on the screen, and it'd just be making that sound of wong, 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 the entire time.
That's another. Well, okay.
So sometimes I'd be in a quiet dungeon. I'd want to just be like focused on the game, and all I would hear was this stupid fairy just going, on the screen, and I was like, I tried to turn it off, but you can turn it off, but you completely turn it off, and you don't have the pointer at all.
I see. Oh.
And so it's like you're playing Zelda without the pointer.
Did they ever explain? Because the pointer point looks like a fairy. It looks like Navi or something. Did they ever explain that in terms of the story?
If they did, I completely missed it because I don't remember anything about them talking about fairy.
Okay. So controls for the Wii version you weren't happy with?
Well, I wasn't happy with the camera. As far as the targeting, like that has to be probably my what's the word? My happiest moment, maybe.
Oh, you're talking about
exciting moment. There you go.
You're talking about with like
with
like
the
arrows and stuff.
Yeah, with pointers and arrows. I mean, it's not. Granted, it's not perfect. It's like if you have your shot locked on, and when you go to hit the B button to shoot, if you even flinch a little bit, it's very realistic. You flinch a little bit, and it's going to be off.
Yeah.
But it's not perfect. But I did like it a lot because there's a very good like transition between shooting and going back into walking around and going back in.
Yeah.
It was very quick. I think the second boss I think there's a fire temple.
Yeah.
The boss where you had to shoot it in the eye and everything.
Yeah.
Simple. I mean, I don't think I ever left one spot. I just sat there and shot him in the eye, and then I never had to really do anything. It was so fluid.
So did it just feel like? I mean, did it just feel kind of like interactive, like you were actually like shooting the arrows and stuff?
Exactly. I think that's a good way of saying it. Maybe interactive. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so that was a plus, like the arrows, the actual pointing, the items that used like where you had to aim. What about like sword fighting?
No, sword fighting was very, very not useless. I want to say unnecessary. How about that?
Unnecessary.
Yeah, it's very unnecessary because it's not like if you slash sideways, it would make a horizontal slash, and if you slash up to down, you'd do a vertical slice. Or if you poked forward, it would poke the guy.
Do you think they could have done something like that, or maybe they just?
I wish they would have, because that would have made it a lot more. But it ended up happening whenever I wanted to slash, I would sit there and just kind of like jiggle the controller around, and it would sit there automatic auto slicing.
Which isn't nearly as
Yeah,
it's not give you that interactive feel that shooting maybe the arrows does.
Exactly. I'm just sitting there jiggling the controller until the guy's dead.
Oh, you were telling me about like kind of the timing too. Like if you tried to simulate the sword slashes,
yeah,
it's not realistic because, I mean, the sword slashes go a lot faster than your arm movements.
Right. Exactly.
So you really do have to kind of jiggle it. You can't just do slower sword slashes.
And then sometimes I'd raise my hand up like I was going to do a big slash, and I'd do a huge slash, and like it wasn't finished reading the other one, so I'd look like an idiot just swinging the remote and then it not doing anything.
Okay, well, I mean, I know you probably have other stuff to say about the controls, but just in general, because this is on the GameCube version, the controls are they're very much the same as like all the other 3D Zeldas. I do think they've been gradually improving, and I do think that they were the most finely tuned in this version, which is maybe why I haven't had much problems with it. I mean, it seemed like from Ocarina to Wind Waker into this game, I've been having less and less problems with it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, I was okay.
Well, how about like the differences as far as like, for me, to do a shield, you had the shield bash technique, correct?
Yeah.
So how would you do a shield bash? Because I would kind of flick the nunchuck forward. It had to be straight. If I shook it, I'd do that little spin attack. Yeah. Which is something I think you wanted to talk about as far as.
Just the aesthetics. Maybe we'll go to aesthetics and the look of the game next. But that's a good point with the spin attack. Well, the shield bash for us is just like you just had to hit like an L button or something.
And that's it?
It was just button presses. It was all pretty well done. I mean, one of the highlights of the game for me was the sword combat. And I think it had to do not only with all those new sword moves you get, but also the fact that just the controls, they were pretty good. I mean, they worked well this time. I don't know.
Let's see.
Do you have anything else to say about controls? I mean, how was just the general feel of it? I mean, like in your hands, was it kind of awkward at first? Or?
I mean, I don't think it's anything having to do necessarily specifically with Zelda, but I actually, halfway through the game, about a third of the way through the game, I just completely took the wrist strap off. Just because it was becoming ridiculous. Because I would be playing it, and then, I would go to do something like type on my keyboard real quick, or respond to something, and then the controller would be dangling from my wrist, and I'd go and unconsciously I'd put it down on the table, and then go turn around and try to do something, and clank, the remote would go slamming into other things. So I just completely took it off, and I mean, I never was swinging the remote like. Even when I was like exaggeratedly swinging it, trying to get into the game, I was never even close to even like letting go of the remote at all. Yeah. So there was no reason for the Wii remote. And if I didn't wear it, then the little wrist strap would sit around and bang into the controller or bang into me.
That's annoying.
So I just took it off completely at the end.
Well, so in the end, in terms of controls, do you wish?
I
know you voiced opinion that you wish you played. I mean, maybe the GameCube version, or at least had access to the GameCube controller. Do you wish Nintendo should have devoted a little more time to the controls, or maybe a little less time?
Well, I think
for the Wii version,
I think definitely as a recommendation, if anybody's out there thinking about playing Zelda, I recommend them to go play the GameCube version. And number two, this could have all been like, I guess I kind of understand why they did it, but this could have been all solved if they would have just, just included GameCube controller
Yeah,
into
I
the
don't know
Wii
why they
version.
did that.
I mean, they did it. They did it so that you could turn off the Wii pointer. You wouldn't have to use the pointer at all. I mean, they did it so that it was like that.
I don't know. Do you think it was like maybe a business? First of all, okay, I know we talked about it a little bit at the beginning. I was really upset that Nintendo ended up doing this, even making a Wii version. Period.
Uh-huh.
But again, from a business standpoint, I understand why they did it because it was a really smart decision, and it helped. It really did help sell a lot of Wii consoles. I think, at least maybe David, you don't agree, but all I'm saying is, what I'm asking is, do you think that removing the GameCube controller option had anything to do with like
as far as feasibility or anything?
Feasibility, like, you might in the future go out and buy the GameCube version,
which I probably will, because my brother's waiting for. He wants to play it, but he doesn't want to play it with the Wii version.
So do you think maybe that was Nintendo's intention, or you just think that they just, I don't know. I can't really explain why they didn't have GameCube controls. It doesn't make too much sense to me.
I think they were really trying to push the Wii controls and get everybody to. Because they want the Wii controls that's their center of everything now.
You make a good point, because I remember people were playing it the first time at E3, and they just had maybe like 5, 10, 15 minutes to play the Zelda game, and they didn't really have time to use the controls. And a lot of people said that, maybe if I sat down for a little while, spent a couple hours with it, although awkward at first, I'd probably get really used to it and really into it. I think maybe if they gave the GameCube controller option, maybe people would have tried the Wii controls for maybe like half an hour, realized they were a little too awkward, and immediately went to the GameCube controls. Maybe removing that option was a good thing, at least.
That's for the future.
Yeah.
But but for me, I'm upset because I think it, once again, hindered the experience. Because I came out of this with just a very, empty feeling, just wishing that it was wishing that I had gotten more out of it.
Okay. Well, in that case, let's move on to maybe some of the other things that didn't have. That didn't deal with the differences between the GameCube and the Wii version. Everything else that wasn't different.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I guess the first thing we can let's talk about the look of the GameCube, because I don't want to only talk about graphics, but I want to talk about like the HUD and stuff.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Which this is funny because you were mentioning that damn fairy buzzing around all over the screen. I think that was just one of many problems that I had with this. Now, I hate to bring up Okami, but it's bound to happen. That game is a beautiful, beautiful game, and it functions very, on the most basic level, it functions much like a Zelda game, yet there's absolutely nothing on the screen. And, it's not like it's hard to play. It's not like they don't give you enough tutorial to learn everything. It's actually quite simple. But when you look at it, it almost looks like you're looking at a moving painting. It doesn't even look like a game.
Exactly.
And now when you look at Zelda, which is my problem, you see every little tiny thing. You see maps. You see what buttons to press. You see on the GameCube version, you actually see the D-pad that says what button to press to bring up the map or to change the map.
Yeah.
You see stuff all over the freaking screen, and that's one thing. But here's one of the first times I knew I was gonna have a problem when I got an Epona, I don't know how do you say it.
That's good enough for me.
Epona, whatever. They never actually say the name, okay?
Yeah.
Because there's no voice, so you can't blame me for saying it wrong. But anyways, when you first get on Epona, there's a button that beeps, it flashes, and on the bottom it says, press A to dismount. That's fine the first time you're learning how to ride the freaking horse. But not only every time you get on the horse, but when you get on the horse, you run out to a sprint, and you slow down to a stop, again, it'll beep, it'll flash, and it'll say, press A to dismount. I think that's a little ridiculous. I know there's a lot of younger gamers that they're trying to get into Zelda, but after finally understanding the controls, why do they have to constantly remind you throughout the entire game?
How many people are actually going to be just picking up the game in mid-game and not knowing what they're doing? They're going to be lost in a dungeon anyways.
And even that, what happened to just trying to figure some controls out?
That too, and then that's just a small example. Every time you get a key or you get any item in the game, like a pose soul or anything, they go through the entire thing. You can set it to this. You can press this to show it to somebody else, and then go through everything every time. And the rupees! Every time you turn the game off, it has to you pick up a single rupee, a green one. That's fine. But then from blue rupee 5 and up. I think there's 5,
Yeah.
10, 50. Every single
All
one.
the
Every time you
directions.
reset the game and start it over, when you pick one up, it has to show you. It has to tell you you've picked up a rupee worth.
But that's not like sloppy programming. They intentionally did that. It's not just like that in Twilight Princess. I'm pretty sure it's like that in most Zeldas, where when you reset and you turn it back on. I remember this.
I know for the
That-
higher value, but for 5, I don't
Maybe
think
not
5.
for 5.
I don't think so for 5 because 5 is a little bit of overkill.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's overkill. I mean, it's a relatively simple game in design, yet they throw all this. So you feel the same way about
Yeah,
the
no,
HUD and the
definitely.
look of the game?
Yeah,
I know there's some like
Yeah, it's just some like Okami. I think a big thing is from Okami. It's just very simple, very and then just so much stuff on the screen. Really, really makes you feel like it's such a. You alright?
no, just a little heartburn.
But as far as talking about like Okami and Zelda, like I wonder if them delaying it a year and pushing it back even longer have had anything
Oh,
to
you're
do with-
talking about with the fact that you...
like the way I felt about the game because
Well, let's get that when we talk about like story, maybe characterization. Just let's finish off graphics. The look of the game. I thought it was a beautiful, beautiful game.
right
And
something that I missed out on was
and not something like uniquely beautiful like Okami or like Wind Waker. It was just the game was very detailed. It was very bright. And it was very well, except for like the Twilight world. I thought that looked like crap.
because it was hard to ever see.
Yeah,
anything
it was
else.
just hard to see, but it was hard on the eyes. But I thought, it's what I envisioned. Like an Ocarina remake, if that were ever to happen. I was hoping the world would look much something like this, and it did. I thought it was very beautiful. It didn't look, as realistic or something as like Resident Evil 4, and it didn't look as stylish as Wind Waker. But I think it was effective in its look, and I don't know. I just thought it was a nice, beautiful world.
As for me, I sometimes I really liked the look, and then sometimes I wasn't too impressed. Like some of the people or the children, the other characters, just look very weird. They have like big eyes.
Okay, characters, I agree. Some of the characters look weird.
They just look hideous.
But come on, what about like just when you first get the opponent and you're just like kind of walking through like the foresty areas? Tell me that's not beautiful.
I couldn't stand like the character animations. Like as far as like at the very beginning, whenever Link's running without his sword, he just looks so like
Well,
not even robotic, but just
I don't know. I just didn't see that.
like he runs the same way every time. And
Well, yeah.
the same thing with the wolf when it's Link's in wolf form and he's running. It doesn't look smooth. It doesn't look like he's actual wolf. He just looks like
I don't think it looks too bad. I mean, I like when you attack with the wolf and like.
Wait,
In Link on wolf form, when he's biting, it looks like he's like
okay,
really furiously trying
just
to
a
like...
question then. Whenever you were in wolf form, how did you attack?
Well, in wolf form, I just use like the A attack.
Okay, so because I never used the.
I only use like the smaller, the B attack, which I guess is the equivalent of just a sword slash. I only use that really when I was like up on ledges that I really didn't want to fall off of, because I know that lunging attack that you press with A
You just fly off the
can
edge.
really get you
gotcha.
all over the place, but I don't know. Well, so the look of it, some of the moments I thought were really beautiful, and I don't want to spoil anything, but
I don't know.
there's
because-
definitely some wow moments for me in terms of just the look of everything. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
Running around Hyrule Field just with like with the sun like glare or whatever and off in the distance, or maybe it's gradually like there's like a sun, it's gradually turning from day to night and you see the sunset off in the distance. I just, I mean, remember this is a GameCube game in terms of like graphical power, and I think for a GameCube game it's one. I mean,
he does look very.
I mean, it looks superb. I mean, it doesn't like I said, it doesn't have the stylishness of Wind Waker, but it has a hell of a lot of detail, and I don't know. I think it could. I don't know. I wouldn't look at that as a negative for the game, even if the look didn't gel with you, because it still was a really highly detailed game, and it looked nice. I don't know. Now the character models, like their faces, that was a little strange at first, but I don't know. I got used to it. I don't know.
I may have never gotten used to it.
Well, so okay. Well, what do you want to move on to next in terms of?
We can just talk about everything overall.
Well, no. I mean, let's go to story. How did you feel about the story? You seem there was no attachment. There was nothing that was pulling everything together for you.
Yeah, I don't know. I just for some reason I still don't understand it now. I still don't understand.
You don't understand the story, or you don't understand why you didn't gel with the story.
Both,
or whatever.
both actually.
I remember you voicing complaints about you don't like how now there's 3 masterpieces. Let's go that dungeon, get that piece. Let's go that dungeon, get that piece. Let's go that dungeon. And later on, there's another item that gets destroyed. I guess it's not really a spoiler, but there's a certain amount of pieces of a certain mirror that you have to go gather. You seem to not like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember. I remember the thing is, I don't remember Wind Waker being like that, but Wind Waker was exactly like that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, pretty much every Zelda was like that.
Yeah, you have to go collect the pieces, put them all together. Something happens, and then you go collect more pieces.
And that's just charming. Like, I don't know. That's old school. Like, I mean, that's old school Zelda at its best. I mean, yeah, it's a little ridiculous, and you're kind of expecting it, but I don't know. It's just one of the charms of Zelda. I don't know. I don't know what to say. But
the thing is, like, I think one thing I wanted to point out is that I talked to you, and then not only to you, but a couple other people. They were always so like wowed by how big the map was. Compared to like Ocarina of Time, at least.
The world's
world's huge, and there's a lot of area to discover. But for some reason, I didn't find it very big at all.
Well, here's the
I found
thing.
it very like linear and like, oh, here's a town and it's always here, and here's a lake, it's right here, and everything's just kind of.
I don't know how much exploring you did, but at first it might, kind of like Ocarina. You get out into Hyrule Field, it's kind of at first looks like a big empty field, but you realize with a little more. I mean, again, I don't know how much exploration you did, but there's lots of little secrets and
stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't realize until the end of the game. Later on, when you're collecting all the things for the book.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, whoa, wow, I didn't know there was a statue there that I needed to,
Yeah, but I mean, just the actual. I mean, I was surprised. Like there's this one part in the game where you look up in the distance, maybe south of Kamikari Village or whatever it's called.
Kakariko.
Yeah. I don't. Whatever. And I saw like a little cliff, and I saw a glint or something up there, and I thought, it might have been something. I was like, oh, maybe I should get an item later that lets me fly or whatever to get over there. Mm-hmm. But then I realized I noticed some rock, and I bombed it, and like, I mean, I didn't even. How should I say this? I was just surprised to, as soon as I bombed this rock, that I was felt like something right out of a Team Ico game where I was climbing all these ledges and these like cliff sides trying to get to this one piece, and I was surprised when I actually got to my destination that something that looked just before like background was actually like an interactive part of the environment. It's stuff like that. Stuff at first that looks like, okay, this game's it's nice looking, it has a lot of detail, but it's more or less empty. I mean, I found out as I progressed through the game that just wasn't exactly true. And I feel like even though I beat the game and I did get a lot of like items, there's still a lot of world to explore that I didn't bother. I remember my little brother was playing the game, and I was watching him play. It was the game
That little.
Well, he's not
just to give the people listening.
Yeah, he's like 19 or whatever, 20 maybe.
So he's not like this little 5-year-old kid playing.
Yeah, but I know it was a game I just played, and I was watching him play, and he was doing. He was on all these like side quests and stuff that I didn't even know existed, which, I mean, again, it just leads me to believe that there's a lot more under the surface than,
See, and maybe that's the difference for me too, because I'm one of those people who, when I play a game, I kind of just stay focused on one thing and keep going, and I never really branch off at all.
Well,
I think gameplay hours-wise, I think I was at maybe like 28 or 32 when I was at the last
which is pretty
section of the game. I was at the last section with, only like at most 32 hours.
Well, some games, I mean, most games do have a lot of side quests and extras and stuff, but there's places to explore. I think Zelda has that spirit where you really want to go out because it's a good adventure game. You really want to go out and explore. But then there's some games that have a lot of side quests. Like I know you felt this way about Okami. there's a lot of other side missions. I mean, stuff to collect, but you don't really feel any motivation to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do it if it's in, like, if I see it and I'm running by it and, oh, I can do that now. I'll run over there and do it real quick.
Yeah.
But I won't go, like, if I see even something, oh, I remember a part where I could use the claw shot. I won't go out there, but I can't remember where it is. I won't go out there looking for it and trying to go back there and find it, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I compared to, like, I wanted to compare it to Wind Waker just because, for me, I went through Wind Waker and tried to find, like, everything. Because it was like, it felt so real. You were in an ocean and there's just islands everywhere. And, you know, and I don't know how in-depth everybody got in Wind Waker, but you could actually buy fish food, and in each tile there was a fish you could feed, and he'd tell you something about the game.
Yeah.
And you also do that not only to find the fish, but also you do that, you know, to find open areas of the map. And so, like, I went through, like, every single tile, finding every single fish, feeding everyone, talking to them, just because I just wanted to find everything in the ocean, you know, because it was just so. It wasn't even that big, but it was big because it felt like you were sailing, and, you know, it was like I think maybe the ocean feels a lot bigger than.
I completely agree with you about Wind Waker. I mean, I get more sense of adventure out of, like, you know, getting onto the boat the first time, whipping out my cell, and just, you know, just heading off of one little island out into the unknown. I mean, out of all the Zeldas, you get the greatest sense of adventure out of that. I mean, I don't want to get too deep into the Wind Waker, but I mean, I think me and David both agree that one of our favorite parts of the game was the big ocean and just the sense of adventure of just going out into the big blue.
Yeah,
and it's unfortunate that so many other people disagreed.
Right. That you'd be sailing along, and all of a sudden, bam, this huge squid comes out of nowhere and just shocks the crap out of you. Or there'd be, like, sharks tailing you, and, you know, they'd try to take swipes at you and knock you off the boat. And all of a sudden you're in the water, and you're like, oh, I got to get back to my ship. There's sharks in the water. I mean,
a non-aquatic Link couldn't swim very well. Yeah. Okay, but let's not get too much into Wind Waker. Let's even though we do like Wind Waker, I actually like Twilight Princess more.
Yeah, and then that, I guess.
But and one of the reasons why was because I thought I got real attached to the story and the characters. I don't know. I mean, let's finish off story. I thought Midna was a great character. The Twilight world, outside the fact that you're a wolf in it, the actual Twilight world, I was interested in. I was like the characters in the Twilight world. I don't like Midna especially had this mysticism about her. You didn't know if she was really good or evil. You didn't know what her intentions were, and I just. See, that was one of the driving forces for me playing the game, figuring out more about this character, more about the story, more about the people in this Twilight world. I mean, it's, you know, she was like, help me take down this evil person, but at the same time, you didn't really know what her true intentions were.
Like if she was going to backstab you at the end?
Yeah, it was just, I mean, it seemed like, just like with their facial expressions, you didn't know in certain situations if she was like...
I definitely felt it with the facial expressions, because she always had like an evil face. Yeah. Or it looked like she was, you know, kind of like that power-hungry, you know. But I never was ever really threatened. I didn't think.
Well, and then
I didn't ever felt threatened though. I wasn't ever like.
There was that, and then there was that one turning point in the game, which we don't want to spoil, where, you know, I'm trying to look at you, Dave, and see if you remember. The one with.
Well, there's a couple. I'm not exactly sure.
Well, the main turning point. Let's say after you do, you know, your standard, you know, you get all the mask pieces. Remember, you get all the mask pieces?
Right.
What happens when you first come out of the water temple or whatever with the third mask?
Okay.
And then you meet the central villain of the game, at least. Well, yeah. And something happens. I mean, you remember what I'm talking about. That's okay. Like, that's when I start to feel attachment to the characters, especially Midna. Really? Like at that turning point in the story. I don't know what it was.
I think the one part in the entire game that it was like the one part that I thought I would have just absolutely got completely, you know, surrounded by the game and just completely pulled in, and then afterwards it was over, because it was the part where you see Zelda for the first time, and you're the wolf, and you're running in Hyrule, the castle, and this is very, very, very early in the game. I think it's after the first, or before the first. Is it before the first dungeon? It may be after the first. No, after the second or so. Yeah. and you go in there, and then you open the door, and it's from the trailer, the part where you see Zelda turned around, and she's got the hood on,
Yeah.
and you can only see part of her face.
Yeah.
And right then I saw her, and I was like, oh my goodness, I want to fall in love with this game. But then afterwards,
Well, so you didn't like Midna as a character.
I don't think I ever even knew Midna enough. I think for most of the time, we were jokingly talking about it after the game, but you know, I keep referring Midna jokingly kind of as a guy because it's never really like, you know, it's a girl. I understand it's a girl, but like you I don't know if you're ever really led to believe that while she's
I don't know.
running around on your back and stuff.
Maybe it was the chatting sessions while things that you mentioned before.
I don't know.
I don't know. I thought it was great, and as far as story goes, I was just really drawn in. I thought there was more, especially just with Link and the other town members. You see the kids and their ambitions, and you see a potential romance for Link, and everything that happens in the story with that girl.
But nothing ever comes out of it. I mean, Link stays single, and he's like I would have loved it to see something like that.
You don't really know that because in the end, he does eventually go back to his
town, but
I mean, it's hard to say.
Oh yeah, I guess that's kind of a spoiler. Yeah, Link ends up saving the town at the end.
Yes, Link saves the day.
It's a happy ending.
It's a happy ending in this Zelda.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't think that's too big of a spoiler.
Yeah, sorry guys.
So, okay, well let's go specifically, let's move this along. Let's go to gameplay, specifically dungeon design and actual, combat mechanics. Because I thought in this game, with a few exceptions, that they were brilliant. Yeah, they nailed it. First of all, combat. In this Zelda, you develop your sword abilities, throughout the game. They're, semi-secrets. And I know David didn't get all of them, but by the end of the game, and I'm not even gonna get close to spoiling what happens at the end of the last boss fight, which I think is one of the greatest boss fights in the history of video games. But maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. But I think when you go in there with your finely tuned sword battling skills, it's just it's just so amazing. And basically the way sword combat works is you have your basic. Just like in all the other 3D Zelda games, you have your slash, you have press A to do your jump slash, but now you get these abilities that further develop your sword fighting. I don't know if you remember in Wind Waker, you get these counter abilities, and basically they're timing things that when your sword flashes green, you press a button and Link will automatically do this pre-animated attack, which will he'll either roll around or jump over an enemy.
And they'll knock off some of the bad guys' armor.
But see, now all those are manual. So if you want to do that, if you want to do the move where you get behind the enemy, now you have to roll. You have to jump to the side, roll around them, and then slash. You have to input it all manually. Or like the Helm Splitter, you have to do your the shield bashes, which is one of your special moves, to kind of stun the enemy. Then do an attack to jump over him and slash him. And it's just those are examples of some of the specialized sword mechanics you get, and I thought it was all really cool. I think the finishing move was cool because we've seen it so many times in Smash Brothers and stuff. It's nice to see you actually be able to control that downward stab because there's a lot of enemies in the game that you'd be able to knock down. In all Zeldas, you'd be able to knock down, they get right back up. Now you have the option of ending it really quickly.
And that's the problem. I think when you're the wolf, you don't have that finishing move, right?
Yeah, that was
so
really
as the wolf, you'll knock a bad guy down, and they'll just be lying on the ground, and you'll sit there slash around him, trying to hit him, but you can't do anything until he gets back up.
Yeah.
And that's cool about the human form is that you could actually do that stab, and even at times you'll do the stab. I wish they would have capitalized it more as making them roll away or something like that, because sometimes I'd just be screwing around and I'd do the downward stab, but I'd do it at a wrong angle, and I'd completely miss him. And your sword gets stuck in the ground a little bit, and you'd have to hold it for a little bit, and he'd pull it out.
Wait. So in the Wii version, if you did the downward stab when you weren't locked on, you just stabbed the ground?
I think it was locked on. I think you have to be locked on for it to say finish. But then I'd do it at a weird angle where I'd hit a rock or something, or I'd do it too late, and he'd be getting up, and I'd stab the ground, and his sword would get stuck for a moment, and he'd have to pull it out.
Well.
And I'm not sure if that's.
Well, so I know you were just like, oh, okay, the sword fighting was okay. But I mean, like I said,
Well, did you?
didn't get off the sword ability.
Majority of the game, were you locked on, or were you not locked on? As far
I
as
think just depending on the situation. Most of the time, I was locked on, just because it seems so.
okay, because I don't think I ever let go of the lock on button the entire like any time during a fight. I think I held lock on for the entire game, basically any combat portion.
Well,
because I didn't feel comfortable running around slashing stuff without the lock on.
well, I think.
I mean, because I'm sitting there jiggling the controller, so it feels like I have no no control over anything. Like I'm just gonna be moving around wildly.
That is a little weird. It's funny that they add that control in the Wii version to make it feel like you're really getting into the sword fighting even more, but it seems like it just did the opposite.
Yeah, I think maybe if they would have just made the A button slash regular. Oh, and that's another thing about the slash. Oh, crud. Oh, that's my new cell phone, guys. Give me 1 second. Let me turn it off. Well, Brad, why don't you just talk about it? Hello?
What am I talking about?
Yeah.
Sword fighting. Yeah, it's awesome. David's gonna agree on
A
this.
little bit. Can I call you back?
He wishes all Zeldas were like this. He thinks that Wind Waker would have been improved with more developed sword fighting. I think that's what David would have agreed on.
That's
All
that's
let's
that's
move
the
on to
that's the
Dungeons and
liveness of this podcast is that we actually have weird things, and later on in about 15 minutes, my brother's gonna come back from dinner and he's gonna say, "Yo, what's up?"
Oh, what?
But what was I talking about again? I can't.
You were talking about how awesome the sword fighting was.
Was that what I was talking about?
Now we're gonna move on to dungeon design.
Well, let me. What was I talking about? The sword fighting. I'd rewind it, but we're.
Oh no, you're probably gonna talk about the fact that you want to go up to an enemy, slash your sword, but slashing your controller just means Link pulls out a sword.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Thank you. Exactly. Because the thing is, you can go. And I think maybe Brad might want to finish this comment off, but like I said, you swing, you kind of jiggle the nunchuck and shake it side to side to do the spin, like the ultra spin, and you spin around and slash everybody. So that's what I would do. I'd be sitting there rolling as Link, and then there's a bunch of bad guys up ahead, and I'd run right into the middle of them so that they would all crowd around me, and then I'd shake my nunchuck, very wildly, just expecting to just absolutely kill everybody. And what would Link do? He'd pull out his sword, and then I'd be like, "Oh crap!" And I'd be sitting there jamming on the nunchuck, trying to swing it around and do the swing attack while getting plastered by like 5 guys.
Let's talk about that, because I think the spin attack it's always been a Zelda staple that you charge it up and spin it. It was kind of like a last ditch effort when you're getting surrounded. You might get knocked out of it, but if you pull it off, it was death to the baddies. But I think one of the coolest things about the spin attack in the GameCube version, which because of the difference in controls wasn't in the Wii version, was the smallest little thing. It's a graphical thing. The way it works is when you charge up your spin attack, Link holds out a sword behind him. He holds it out, and it's the signature. He's ready to do a spin attack, and you charge it up. In previous Zeldas, the sword might glow or something, but basically the sword will glow. It would shine a certain color, and that's when you were ready to do your spin attack. In this one, it's the coolest little effect. Link, as you press B and you start to hold a little bit, Link will hold out his sword. And instead of just you waiting a little bit and the sword flashes, in this one, the camera pans up a little. Not pans up, it tilts up. And as it tilts up, the reflection of the sunlight off of his sword goes to the end of the tip. Just as it seems like something would actually happen with lighting on a sword as the camera tilted up. And as the glint off the sword hits the end, that's when you're ready to do your super spin attack.
Yeah, and that's really cool. I still haven't seen that yet. I still need to go see that because.
I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit. It was like a small little graphical thing.
Right, no, but for me,
the first time I saw it, I was like, "Oh, that's so cool! The way they did that, it's smart."
But for me, I didn't have that at all because all I had to do was just jiggle the nunchuck. He'd do the spin, and then you'd have to wait for a little bit, and then the sword will all of a sudden just go shink, and then this little light would run up the blade, and then you could do it again. And so
I don't know, it's stuff like that got me into the sword fighting. And before we go into dungeon design, let's talk about horse combat, because I know David absolutely hated this, and I absolutely loved it.
I don't think there was even anything to hate because in Zelda, in Twilight Princess, there's a bunch of like these kind of mini game kind of things.
Yeah.
That I don't remember them
Mini
being.
game kind of things.
I don't remember them being in any other Zelda game. Like really,
What are you
like you'd have the
talking
like
about?
little rafting thing where you have to raft down the raft.
Well, no, but that was nice. That was fun.
Okay, yeah, I know, but it just felt so like I play a lot of platformers, and in platformers there's always weird stuff like that, like the little turret games. Like every platformer you play, there's that little turret game.
Okay, well,
that stuff's flying at you, and you got to shoot everybody before they hit you.
yeah, no, I know what you're... Okay, first of all, those mini games, let's pull away from this a little bit, go back to the whole differences between the Wii and the GameCube version. A lot of that crap, like the fishing and the sailing and the flying of that big bird, I think that has a lot to do with the fact that they wanted something that they can use the different unique Wii controls for. And I don't think that stuff was intentionally going to be in the GameCube version.
Do you think so?
Because, like, fishing in the GameCube version, all it is you wait for your little bobber to go under, and you just press a button. You pull back on the yellow stick until you reel it in. There's no, like, interactivity with
But
like,
you
the
do
fishing.
see, you pull back on the yellow stick, right?
That's it.
The-
You
well,
just
that's
pull it back. You don't even have to, like, time it or anything. You just pull it back like a
and you
button.
hold hold it back, and you hold it back, and then all of a sudden he pulls them out of the water.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with the Wii remote.
Yeah, but...
I
But
throw
that-
my hand out there, I hold it down, facing down, so the bobber's in the water, and when I see it go under, then I hold it back, and I just hold it with like the Wii pointer facing away from the TV.
Yeah. Now, there has been fishing in
Well-
a Zelda game before, but I still, like, I think Link's Awakening was the first one. But I think that this lame-ass fishing wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the Wii version.
Well, wait, let me ask you a question then. You know, I don't know if you... I played the demo, the Zelda demo, where you're in the boat and you row out in the boat with this girl in the little weird hat and she's got like pigtails.
Really?
Yeah, and then it's a Wii demo. You go out, you fish, you throw the Wii remote, like you do it like you're casting, but you let go of the A button as you're doing it, and then you use the nunchuck and you
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, and you what's it called?
You reel in.
You reel it in by kind of spinning the nunchuck in your other hand.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But that's in the demo, but I never saw that in the game. And I never even got a rod that could actually do that. And I'm wondering, did I miss it? Because I think I remember asking you, and you didn't. I didn't see that lake ever in the game.
Hey, real quick.
It's like a swampy kind of lake.
Okay, well, yeah. Okay, mini games aside, let's go on to the horse combat. But real quick, I'm definitely not going to spoil this. In the final battle, you do certain things.
We can edit this out if you spoil.
Okay, well, I'm not going to spoil it. You know, you do certain things with the arrows. Do you control that in the Wii version?
With the arrows?
I'm talking
No.
about not in the final, the part right before the final showdown.
No, you don't control arrows.
You don't control that?
You don't control arrows at
How
all.
did you like that part?
It was okay.
I thought it was so awesome and epic, man.
Really?
God, it was like the
I-
coolest thing. Like that first shot of seeing this person off in the distance on his horse and that was so fucking cool. Freaking cool.
Okay, so they know it's on a horse then, right?
Okay, we'll edit this out.
The horse battles. We're doing
Okay, well, let's go back to the horse battle. I thought the horse battle was brilliant. And I didn't watch videos of the horse combat over and over and over again from E3, and I wasn't, like, overly inundated with it. So when I first came across it, I thought it was freaking awesome. I had great control on the horse, and maybe, again, it was because of that charge-up attack, but when I was running down Hyrule Field, full speed with guys behind me, with my sword out ready to spin around.
You could charge attack?
You charge attack.
Oh.
So listen.
I never did that.
I'm running down Hyrule Field full blast with like an army of guys behind me, heading towards that main guy with my sword up in the air.
You had control of camera.
Yeah.
So you could look behind you and see
Exactly.
what's happening. I never saw
my
behind me.
sword was up in the air,
I told
and I
you.
knew I had one more little carrot left or spur left. I hit that last spur just to get just close enough to do my spin attack, hitting that guy. That was so freaking awesome.
No, see, that never happened for me. Because, like I said, I was in lock-on the whole time. I just sat there locked on whatever I was chasing. And then all I would be doing is sitting there jamming on the A button to boost up and then get close enough. And then I'd do the little Wii remote thing real quick, and then he'd hit the...
I thought it was freaking cool. I thought it was brilliant because it turned something like so big as Hyrule. First, you're like, Hyrule Field's so ridiculously big. Why is it this big? But the horse combat kind of brings it into like this big, huge battle arena. It felt so awesome. I don't know how to explain it.
And I
you just have to
feel
play
bad.
it.
I don't understand why. I really feel bad. I don't understand.
Okay, and then after the horse battle, again, this is not a spoiler because everybody's seen the freaking demos and the videos. When you have the jousting versus the guy, I remember you hated that. And like, although
I missed
although
him.
I think it could be improved on a little bit, I thought, or maybe it could have like had a little more depth to it, or it could have been lengthened. I think it was so cool that it happened, just because the joust after this huge epic battle out in Hyrule Field was just such a badass way to end a
The
fight.
thing about the joust,
so
yeah,
cool.
the joust thing, man, I missed him, like...
The
You'll
fact
run
that
at a
you
guy-
actually, when you miss, you actually have to turn around like in a real jousting thing. That was so cool.
Really, I've always hated that. Maybe not just about this, but maybe in joust in general. I just hate the fact that you missed and you have to go back and do it again.
I don't know. It just...
And
it was
I end
cool.
up missing him like 6 or 7, maybe even 8 times, just because if you have to get close to him. If you get too close,
Do you know that you have to
get
be on a
knocked
certain
off.
side of him because he has like a shield?
No, I always just did the left side.
Huh.
I always just went on the left side every time. And then if I got too close, he'd hit me and I'd fall off. And you're jousting on a bridge.
You should have been using your charge attack.
I didn't even know you had a charge. How would you have a charge attack
It's
on a
because you were
horse?
playing the Wii version.
Did they tell you had a charge attack?
You just... I mean, just like when you're running around, you
hold up
your
the sword?
like a badass.
Damn
it
it.
was so cool. He holds it up and you.
Damn it.
It looks so
Oh my-
freaking cool.
That's gotta... Oh, see? I remember seeing
I'm telling
that
you,
from
if I just slashed my sword like a little dork, I wouldn't have been that much into that
See,
horse
no,
thing.
see, that's
but when
exactly
you're
what
when you're going
happened.
faster and faster and faster, trying to get out of this pack of enemies, just so
You hold your sword up and you're galloping with
Yeah,
the sword in the
exactly.
air. Oh, man, that has got to be...
It's really cool.
Oh, man, you didn't tell me about this earlier. That sucks. That really does suck. Because I never even realized it. Because I would just sit there and I'd run by him, and when I run by him, I'd shake my Wii remote.
Oh man,
And
did it feel a little cheap?
Yeah, exactly. He'd slash twice, and I couldn't even really control which side he was slashing on, because he'd slash one way and then slash back the other way. And so my biggest thing was I was always too close to him, and I'd get too close, he'd joust me, I'd fall off the bridge, and then have to do it over again.
Yeah.
And so then I'd be like too scared to get close to him, and so I'd stay too far. I wouldn't hit him. I'd run to the end. I'd turn around and we'd do it over again.
Again, I think Wii controls just became a distraction at that point. I don't know.
And I wonder how.
I have that same Dragon Ball poster.
Really? Oh dang! I think the CD stopped.
Oh
That
well.
was
Well, I want to go on to dungeon design because we are getting a little long-winded here. I think a little
Yeah.
bit.
Wow! I can't believe we're pushing on
Yeah.
an hour.
Wow. Dungeon design. I thought, and again, this is my problem with 3D Zeldas, is that the pacing of the dungeons they're not very good. But in this game, I thought, with the exception of one or two
maybe you
dungeons,
should explain pacing real quick.
well, pacing as in maybe the... Okay, how should I explain this?
The pace of the dungeon. It kind of
The pace of the dungeon, you play it for long periods of time, and you kind of get stuck, and you just kind of want to put it down and maybe come back to it later. You're at the beginning of the dungeon, you have to figure it all out again. Maybe you're stuck at one little point.
And you have to backtrack through all
You
of
have
it.
to backtrack a lot.
Because you can't finish the dungeon in one sitting.
I don't know. I spent I mean, it's not to say that I rushed through all these dungeons, but there was never a point where I got so tired of a dungeon I just wanted to come back to it later. I know you felt a little bit
That
different.
happened to me a couple times. The first time it happened to me was in the water temple.
Yeah, well...
Which is kind of funny that it's the water temple coming back. I don't know. That may have been my least favorite dungeon in
Same
the
with
entire
me.
game.
At least Water Temple was my least favorite dungeon, not just because...
And I don't know if it's
Just because it didn't inject enough creativity like some of the
I
other
almost
dungeons.
want to say that it was because of the camera. Because there was this one part that I missed, and I didn't see it, and I ran by it like 8 times.
I was actually watching, actually.
Yeah, and I ran by it like, oh, did you see me do that?
Well, because I remember you brought it home and you were playing the Water Temple.
Oh, and you saw me run by it, but then I didn't finish it, right, when you were here? Yeah, I ran by this one
finished it?
spot like 4, 5, 6, maybe even 8 times. Didn't see what I was missing, and I just kept running by and running by and running
With
by.
the exception of okay, but I don't know.
Overall,
I thought the pacing was great. I thought the dungeons...
I absolutely loved the last 3 dungeons.
The last 3 dungeons were cool.
I had to say, I love the... I don't know, should we mention names? Like the names of the dungeons? Probably not, huh?
Yeah, why not? Go ahead. I mean, those aren't really spoilers, and
It kind of is.
okay, there's a certain maybe we can refer to them as I don't know.
Okay, well, everybody knows.
Let's
There's
talk about the
There's a
first
fire
two dungeons.
temple. There's an ice...
Fire Temple with the boots and the magnetism.
just-
I thought that was
Should
freaking
I
awesome.
just repeat the CD?
Just repeat it, yeah.
But yeah, but...
Fire.
Okay, there's always a fire temple, there's always an ice, there's always a water, there's
Yeah.
always a dark, and then... That's the thing. I couldn't...
forest. Yeah.
Some of the stuff I found really... I mean, some of the stuff's very, very inventive, I guess.
I think a lot of the dungeon success
Oh, the wind.
comes out of the items.
The items
the
that you get.
use of items, which I thought the use of items within the dungeons were really cool. And some of the items you get later in the game, when you first start off, the first few dungeons is pretty standard, the stuff that you get, even though it's pretty fun. Like, in the fire dungeon, when you get the boots, the metal boots, when you start getting it, with the magnetic walls, it was just really, really cool. When you're like, what do I do now? And you just realize you have to leap off this edge and just hope that your magnetic boots are going to
Catch you.
Catch you. And all of a sudden, you get pulled, all the way across this gigantic room, and you're spinning as you fly towards, like, all of a sudden you're on the side of a wall, and now you're walking around, and you have all this combat, and you're upside down or sideways. It was really fun. It was cool.
And
which might have been a nightmare
One
with poor camera control, because I know
Yeah.
that was when I was having camera issues, when I was all upside down and sideways trying to fight.
right.
enemies.
Oh yeah. Okay, gotcha. And then not only that, but upside down, fighting someone that could only be hit from behind, and trying to get around them.
Yeah, that's good.
You can't. I don't think you couldn't side jump, right?
No, not when you were
Upside down, because
on
you-
a magnetic wall.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, dude.
So the first few dungeons, even though they're cleverly done, the items you get are pretty standard. I do think the boomerang was pretty cool. The way it turned, the way you did all those different
I
wind
think it was
puzzles and
actually.
stuff.
I think the game was. I think it did a pretty good job of like you having to use the items
The
later
items.
on. in
The only
game.
problem is some of the later items outside of the dungeon, their use was limited.
Yeah, outside.
But
You
I
couldn't
mean that's
get-
forgivable because the
But
dungeons are pretty memorable.
they kind of did a good job, like repeating the items later on in later dungeons. Like here's one thing.
I like the boomerang, how it combined like the boomerang with like that wind leaf from Wind Waker. That was pretty cool.
The boomerang with the. Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
But here's one thing I would have liked to see in this game, as far as it being, like the dungeons. Like I don't know, like in the first Zelda game, I'm talking about the Legend of Zelda on the NES. You know how you could just kind of wander into a dungeon and find it yourself, And I understand you can't really. That's not really feasible now.
The original NES version was very non-linear, and you realize that you have to have certain items to progress in certain dungeons. And
But technically you could go into a dungeon and beat it, and find the item from that dungeon and use it to beat the boss or whatever it
yeah,
was.
Yeah.
And I wish, like, the game is this one is pretty much as linear as possible. Like, I wish they would have had.
Linear, yeah.
like there's
at
this-
least the dungeon progression was very linear.
I wish there was a part where there was 3 dungeons. It's kind of like the part in Final Fantasy 3 or Final 6. I'm sorry, where the returners they split up, and you could play Locke's part or you could
Yeah.
play Sabin's part.
linearity has been pretty common in all Zelda games since the original.
So, yeah, and
I mean-
that's one thing I would have liked for them to have changed and maybe done differently.
that is pretty cool. But maybe let's note this now. Like for the next Zelda, how about non-linear like dungeon design to where you might realize that you have to have a certain item to progress or get a certain item in it,
Or
to
just
get
pick which one you want to start off with. Who cares,
yeah.
I mean, even if the dungeons are the same, you go in, you get the compass, then you get the map, then you get the big key, and then you go fight the mini boss, and then get the big key, and then go fight the final boss. Even if it's like that every time, at least give us a choice, like as far as which dungeon we go to.
Did you ever play that 2D recreation of Ocarina of Time?
No.
Huh. Sorry, just a random question.
Kind of very interesting. Maybe we should go check that out.
Yeah, that was.
It's the next.
So let's see. Dungeon design was cool. Later on, the items I thought got pretty cool. I guess that's kind of spoiling because some of the items later on in the game were pretty novel. But you know what? People played the game. People know what the items they'll get. They're spoiled in all the reviews and stuff.
Yeah.
You get this one. I don't know. Do you want to talk about like the spinner or the certain
That's
ball and chain?
The ball and chain's pretty cool.
It's cool, like because you're like the dungeons they genuinely stump you. You're going through. You're like, how you see like a chest or this ledge you want to get to. You're like, how the hell do I get to it? And it becomes clear when you get the item, and that's when, like in the ice temple, you kept sliding into those ice walls and getting frozen, getting all frustrated. And then when you get that ball and chain, you realize you could just start smashing through things, not just ice walls, but shelves and crates and stuff. It was so cool.
Yeah,
It's such
there's
a
some.
different item.
Actually, this is making me think about some stuff I need to ask you.
What's that? Go ahead.
Well, it has to do with the game and stuff, and like the puzzles. Because there's some puzzle. There's this one puzzle with a scale, and I'm not sure how you did that one.
No, but there's a variety of ways you could do it. That's what I was.
Yeah, okay, so there was a variety, right? It's not like you had to do it. Well, I didn't know there was some. It involves like you moving a scale, and there's some pieces on the wall, and I don't know if those were just for display or if you actually had to go get those to do.
No. When you get the later, there's a place you could access. I mean, like if you can set the scale. I'm pretty sure you can set the scale a certain way to reach a higher level that would get you like to a secret part of that room.
Oh, really?
There's a lot of little secrets in these dungeons, and that was a pretty cool one. Where you had to like use them all, and maybe some of your statue or whatever, or your big That was a really cool dungeon, by the way, because the item was really
that
cool.
That was the time. The temple.
That was the temple of the. Well, that is kind of weird. Well, the temple of time with the what was the rod called?
Dominion.
Dominion rod. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was
that's a
different.
Waker, well, like
that's
it
a
had
different
a similar thing like that, but you had to do that.
Wait, which one?
Remember in Wind Waker you had the dungeon? I think it was like the Earth dungeon where you had to like do the little command, hit him or whatever, and then you became the statue and you walked around.
Oh,
that was so annoyingly slow because you had to do the little.
But whereas this one, you actually just controlled him and he was running ahead of you, and you could use. I just used him to flatten like all the bad guys.
And the first time I had him hit Link in the head with this big hammer, I laughed my ass.
Oh, I never did that. I
didn't watch it at first because I was in this crowd of enemies and I was trying to slash him and I was trying to get him to attack him, all those little spiders. And then he kept hitting Link in the head. I was like, I was actually losing life.
That's pretty funny.
But
funny. No, I liked it too because the rod actually kind of reminded me of which was the red rod in Link to the Past, where you could use it to make blocks.
What?
And then you use it to make blocks, and then you put the blocks on top of tiles and stuff in Link to the Past. The red one, the red little rod.
The little cane of something.
Yeah, cane of something. Maybe it was cane. But it just reminded me of that kind of, because you're outside of, you're actually sitting there outside using it, like you said, not turning into the actual thing itself.
Yeah. So, dungeon pacing was, dungeons were good, the items were cool. The gameplay I thought was rock solid. I don't know. Your attachment, although with some technical issues with the Wii controls, you didn't seem to attach to the story and the characters and the music.
The music, exactly.
I thought that's everything. All that drew me in. I don't know. That's why I think.
Hey, did you?
I think this is the best 3D Zelda, and I know people are gonna flip out that I don't think Ocarina is the greatest game of all time, but people also think Ocarina is the better game because it's got more difficult dungeons. Now I brought up this argument before, but I think the difficulties of dungeons in Ocarina, they're just superficially difficult based on the limitations of the graphics. You might spend hours and hours running around through a dungeon, just not seeing this little like maybe claw shot thing off in the corner of this room.
You're talking about an Ocarina?
Yeah, an Ocarina. It was hook shot.
What did I say? Claw shot.
Oh, well,
yeah.
You get the claw shot in this game.
Yeah, just limitations like that in graphics where, some of the same types of puzzles were almost exactly the same in Twilight Princess, but they were easier to figure out just because everything was so much more clear and bright and the camera control was better. You just didn't have those kinds of problems. So I don't think running around a dungeon, running past the same damn thing in an Ocarina dungeon is, all that difficult. It's more annoying than anything. I don't know. Some people think this game was too easy, but
no, I think it was a lot harder than Wind Waker, because I remember I don't think I ever died in Wind Waker once, or maybe once just because I was messing around or something.
Well, like access to that was what it was. I saw my brother doing the side quest. Like I didn't think there was any like great fairies in the game, or like,
really
even the little fairies.
There was a great fairy.
There's a bunch of them.
Dude, there's
this whole great fairy quest where you can make fairies appear in all the different springs and stuff, where you can actually go capture them for bottles. Because I was wondering like why there's no fairies I could put in a bottle.
That's
I could never find them.
I saw 3 fairies.
Usually right
the
before
entire
bosses, right?
The entire game. Yeah, I saw 3 fairies, and they were right before bosses in a little bottle, in a little pot that I hit, and they would come out. And yeah.
Oh.
So where to from here, man?
We're talking about dungeon items, music. You didn't like the music. I don't know.
I liked some.
When I first hit Hyrule Field and that music kicked in, it got my heart pumping, man. The Hyrule theme I thought was great. The Lake Hylia theme, the dungeon themes,
the Western theme.
And the Western theme I love.
I can't stand the Western theme. I don't know why.
The Western theme was there. They had this little section of the game which was. It seemed a little out of place, but I thought it was really cool. It's like a little Western showdown, and I have a save at that part because I really like the theme when you're doing it.
And I cannot believe that you actually put a save.
And the Twilight theme. After the big turn in the story.
The Twilight theme?
After the big.
The only two songs.
I don't.
The only two songs.
I don't think it's called the Twilight theme. It's the one where. Remember the big turning point in the game where, after you get all the 3 pieces of the mask, and then something happens to a certain character.
Right. And that theme, I don't remember. The only 2 themes
It's the one. You really like it too. It only happens in that one part in the game.
Oh, yeah, the one
When
that
you're
involves
carrying-
Midna.
Yeah, it involves Midnight.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that and
was
the
really
Lake
good.
Hylia.
had a really
Those
nice
are 2 themes. I loved the Lake Hylia theme. The first time I heard it, I fell into Lake Hylia. The sun was setting, and I was swimming across the lake, trying to get to the other side of the shore, with the sun setting in front of me, and then the sun getting in my eyes, and not being able to see the screen because the sun was in my eyes, and the music playing. It was great. That was my 2 favorite themes. But was there anything else? Was there any themes? I can't think of anything else that was too extremely memorable.
You don't like this theme? I like all the themes. I thought the music was solid. I don't think it's necessarily any better than any other Zelda game, but it's just as memorable, just as good for me. I don't know. I think it's definitely not a fault of the game. It's just a positive, like in any Zelda game.
So
I don't know. The remixes were cool, like the Hyrule Castle theme at the end. That was a really cool theme.
and I honestly can't even remember it. And I had my speakers go. I had my surround sound going and everything. Maybe I was drowned out by the damn fairy.
Or are you going, crap? The camera sucks.
Yeah, the camera sucks. Yeah, for me the whole time, the game just didn't. I had this big feeling like the game didn't gel. Like it wasn't just fluid. Like stuff just happened. Like you'd fight this big one orc boss, and then you'd be fighting for no reason, and then he'd just be like, I don't know if this is spoiler, but he's like, I follow the strongest, and you're like, what? What does that mean?
I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, why?
Wait, do you not understand that part?
I understand. He follows the strongest, so because I beat him, he's gonna help me out or something. But
that part was cool.
But what was the point? There was no point on it.
His realization that Link is
The strongest.
No, let's not talk about that.
That doesn't stuff just happened in the game that just
What
didn't
are you
make sense
talking
all
about?
throughout the game. I want to say stuff, but I don't want to.
No. Why do you think this Zelda, in terms of story and what happens, is so much less fluid than any other Zelda?
I just felt like stuff happened. It was just like random events. And I don't know. Maybe this is because and this is one thing I don't know if we said we were going to come back to. Maybe it's because I played two games that I feel took. I don't know if Zelda got ideas from it or they got ideas from Twilight Princess. But I played Okami last year this September before Zelda, and Shadow of the Colossus a year ago September.
There's a lot of influence from those, especially Shadow of the Colossus.
And the thing about it is, what makes me really I'm not upset. But what will really make me upset is that Zelda was supposed to come out last holiday season, a year before, and this would have predated Okami and barely just came after Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah. Well, the wolf sequences, I think that was just a coincidence. I don't think.
Oh, I definitely agree.
It's hard to praise the wolf sequences in Zelda
after seeing the ones on Okami. Exactly. That's what kind of made me kind of disappointed in the wolf sequences.
Yeah.
And maybe that's something that adds to my frustration as far as me not liking this game as much as I would have hoped, is because there's just some parts that happen in Twilight Princess that I feel like I've played already before. Either in Okami or in
but didn't you get that same feeling in Okami? It's hard, even though Okami I think is a really, really great game. I mean, it's hard to. I mean, I can't imagine anyone playing Okami and not thinking about Zelda. Like, I've done this puzzle and
that's weird. No, because that's weird because that just made me think. In Okami, the part with the little bridges that you have to spin around using. You don't have the Gale Boomerang, but you have that little wind thing.
Exactly.
But
see, that was all done before in Wind Waker, when you had your little wind leaf.
And you spin the bridges that way?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I remember the wind leaf.
Remember the wind?
I just it has a little puff. I remember the wind leaf and you being on top of another leaf and you using the wind leaf to propel yourself. That's all I remember.
He goes like, wah! And he throws a gust of wind.
And then you hit the thing and it spins the thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a long time ago.
So,
Is this about time we should try to find a way to end this?
how about no, not end it. Maybe just break so I can get something to drink because I'm
Okay.
heartburn.
You have heartburn? That's kind of weird. All right, we'll be right back.
Just pause it.
You want to just pause it? Well, the idea is just to start recording and just start going. Okay. Well, it's recording now.
Well, what else do you have on your paper?
As far as on the paper, I wanted to finish up. I wanted to say, like, I think I listened to the GameSpot review of it,
Yeah.
and it was talking about how like the Zelda just feels so like old. I mean, I think Gershman reviewed it, and Gershman was talking about how for like now that we're all on CD format, since you got a regular, well maybe for the Wii version. I guess that makes sense for the Wii version, but he was talking about how the Wii version is on a disc, a regular DVD now. Like why isn't there a full orchestral accompaniment? Yeah,
Okami caliber soundtrack.
Yeah, exactly. Which is cool. I understand why his point. I kind of just answered my own question because in my mind I was like, oh well, it's actually a GameCube game. I think maybe that's my point is the entire time I think everything leading up to the Twilight Princess when we were talking, you had always said Zelda is a GameCube game. It's not a Wii game.
Yeah.
It's a GameCube game, and of course maybe that's the reason why it doesn't have a full orchestral soundtrack. But I think the next Zelda we expect it to be like that. I expect it to have great music. I want it to have voice acting because
I know what the first
originally
words out of Link's mouth will ever. Do you think even if they do infuse voice acting into the Zelda series, do you think Link will remain a silent hero?
If that's fine, Link remains
I hope
silent.
not, because if
Really?
Link's silent, you're gonna want Zelda silent, and you're gonna want. I'm telling you, when Link talks, the first word out of his mouth will be princess. Mark my words. Write this down.
Okay, write it down. Princess is the first word he's gonna say.
I'm telling you, it's gonna be at the very end of this badass grand trailer, and you won't even necessarily realize it's Zelda. But you just kind of thinking it's Zelda, and all of a sudden, I mean, I don't know how it's going to be set up, but maybe he's like carrying her, or something happens to her, and he just kind of like maybe kneels down or whatever to like pick her up, and he just says, princess. And then that's it. And then it has maybe like a date or a year date.
That's pretty
when
funny.
he speaks, that's going to be his first word.
Princess. Oh, that's funny. I got to make sure I hang on to this.
And that's when you know that it's Princess Zelda and it's a Zelda game, maybe.
Really?
That'd be kind
of weird.
That'd be badass.
I think the first.
It would be weird and awkward, but my God, I mean,
I'm fine with them keeping Link silent, but like, geez, like the storytelling, any of the storytelling.
yeah, there's no reason that any of the other characters in this game shouldn't have talked.
Right.
Because that would have actually like breathed a lot more life into them. I could have sworn though, Midna, every time she talked, there was some like weird, like it's like some backwards language or whatever.
Yeah,
sometimes it just seemed like I could kind of understand what she was saying.
Yeah, which is cool. That's kind of like what they did in Chibi Robo, I guess. But
I like how they gave her a unique non-voice though.
Yeah. Yeah. But
And
yeah.
Again, I think that her voice added to her like mysticism or creepiness, mysteriousness.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. I mean, after playing the game and watching like the ending and all the explanation, like cutscenes where they explain the whole creation of land, I think, in one part. Yeah. Like, it's just so frustrating to just be sitting there reading text as, like, this stuff's happening,
Yeah, I completely agree. It would be nice.
Yeah, and so it just gives this game the very outdated feel.
What are your... my conclusions on the game are that it was... I think in a genre such as the 3D adventure game, that, like, when a series like Zelda remains so faithful to its formula, it only gets better. Now, there's certain, like, style exceptions or world exceptions in something like Wind Waker. And Ocarina had, like the Ocarina was really cool. The first time you met Epona. I think the series in 3D has only gotten better, just like I think it's only gotten better in 2D.
Well, see, here's the thing.
And I think Twilight Princess
they've
is
always
the best
had
3D Zelda.
They've always had
Not the best Zelda.
They've always had They've always had some sort of defining point to each game, correct?
What do you mean?
Like, you played Ocarina. It's Ocarina of Time. You have the first time you're playing the Ocarina, the first time you ride Epona. It's just, that's the big thing.
Midna is the central character.
See, and
behind
that's
Twilight Princess.
Well, I mean, I understand. Oh man, that's a funny thing, and I'll explain that in my in the spoiler after you beat the game version. Remind me to explain that.
But
slip-up
I'm
right there.
saying, like, that was the heart of the game. I mean, the story.
And see, maybe that's what I missed, because the thing is,
The Wind Waker, I mean...
yeah, well, let's just talk about the musical
Alright.
instruments then real quick. Because in the first two, Ocarina and Majora's, it's both about, it's about math, but they also talk about the, as far as the music-wise,
This music.
yeah, I love this music, but as far as the music, you play with the ocarina, and that's cool. But in this one, they kind of like shoved it in there with the wolf, and like you do in the howling mechanic.
Oh, that was awful, by the way.
That was really awful, and it had
That
nothing to
was
do with
terrible.
it had nothing to do with the game at all. You didn't have to learn the song and play it again later. You just use it at that one little section,
That
and
was
just
stupid.
yeah, it was horrible. I actually
There was
no
points in the game where I wish I could howl and change it from day to night or night to day.
yeah, exactly. That would
Or howl for your opponent, but
Yeah.
you did what you did. So, well, okay, my thoughts on this game were that it was great. I don't know. It found a way to grab me, and I really, really got into it. Maybe I was just really looking for a Zelda game. It's been so long since I've had a really good Zelda game draw me
that
in.
makes me kind of wonder if maybe I kind of ruined it, because during the summer, I don't know if I told you, I tried to pick up Majora's Mask and play it all the way through.
Yeah, maybe, but
The thing is, everything that was in Majora's Mask, like as far as the gameplay wise, was still kind of like this, the same old controls and camera, and so maybe that kind of contributed to my like tired feeling. And
maybe. Well, so what are your overall thoughts about the game?
the game, I really feel bad that I didn't like it more. I was expecting, maybe I went into this game expecting too much, because
Were you expecting
it's
a
a
brand Wii game?
well, it's a Zelda. Yeah, I told you my brother would be back, right?
What?
No, we're recording, so.
Oh shit. Shoot, he said. He said shoot.
Yeah. No, it's a Zelda game, okay?
Yeah.
It's not. I don't think it's wrong of me to expect like this life-altering game that changes your,
Well,
changes everything about a system or about anything. And so for me, I went in expecting a lot from this game, and it didn't. I don't think it.
we'll have the best Zelda game. What's your favorite Zelda game? Wind Waker, right?
Yeah.
My favorite's A Link to the Past. Neither of those like revolutionized their respective genre. They were just really, really great games. Why did you expect this game to be, this big?
Maybe, I don't know. I
Gaming
remember
revolution.
Reggie saying once that this is going to be the best Zelda game ever, and that's huge, and it's got lots of dungeons.
Well, a lot of people did say this is the best Zelda game ever.
Yeah, so I'm wondering what.
Because it stays so
And-
faithful to the formula, it improves on the formula in every way,
Then-
and then it has the story that draws people in.
Then I
And
might-
I just didn't click for you. I don't know.
I might have to just blame it completely on the controls.
But see, to be honest, although I do think you had problems with the Wii controls, I don't think it would have been any. I don't think you would have. Your like distance from the story and the characters would have been any different on the GameCube version. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, but I don't know. I guess it's your judgment. Maybe one day you'll play the game. I think it's already your opinion's already made. I don't think playing the GameCube version could change it.
Yeah, that was why I didn't switch over.
It might though. Have you ever replayed a game where and like?
I'll replay it. I'll replay it in maybe like
Well, yeah,
5 or 6 years or something. I'll play it right before the next Zelda game comes out. And
So overall, you were a little disappointed, but
not a little bit disappointed.
you were very
Hugely disappointed, and it
Why
got
were
to the
you
point
hugely disappointed?
just because when you expect so much from something and it doesn't capitalize on it. I mean, it doesn't deliver. Then that's why.
You were expecting more than a Zelda game.
Exactly, because it's Zelda, and I think we had talked about this, and when we were talking about it, and I was ranting and talking about it, and I made it out to sound like it was a mediocre game, and that it wasn't very good at all.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, it's a great game, 8 out of 10 at least. But
Let's not go with numbers there. You might freak out some
Yeah.
fanboys.
Well, I want to say it's a great game, but for a Zelda game, I want to say it's very mediocre. for a Zelda game, because it's
Very
got a
mediocre.
well, okay, just average then. How about that? It's an average Zelda game.
I think that it's the best 3D Zelda. I don't think it's the best Zelda. Not even close to A Link to the Past. That's just me. I don't know. I think David also needs to go back and replay A Link to the Past. He has some fuzzy memories about it. He needs to
I remember everything.
crystallize on those.
I was fighting the turtle boss and everything.
Okay, yes, that's all you remember. He told me yes. Don't believe him. He told me yesterday that's all he remembers. This turtle boss, which I'm not even sure if it existed or not.
Yeah, it's the turtle boss.
The turtle boss?
Yeah, the turtle with 2 heads. Well, 3 heads. It's this big shelled turtle, and it's got a red fire-breathing head on one side. Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I've got it. Oh, okay, I got you.
I really like it.
I like the Wind Waker, the Hyrule Castle one better. It was a lot bigger and like grander, and then you're walking through the. Oh yeah, that's one thing I want to. Oh man, maybe we should talk about this.
Wait, we'll talk about Wind Waker some other time in a retro podcast later.
Yeah.
Retro.
Yeah, but going back to Hyrule and Wind Waker was the coolest part. One of the coolest parts of that.
Well, what happened is one day I'll replay Wind Waker. You'll replay A Link to the Past, and then we'll do respective podcasts for those two.
Oh,
Maybe like a versus or something.
Oh,
And I'll
geez.
explain to you why you're such an idiot for not liking Link to the Past more. But I still think A Link to the Past had the best dungeon design, even versus the 3D.
Maybe I was just frustrated with it.
Frustrated. Okay. Well, so what now? Do you want to conclude this part and go to our...
Well, maybe we would have wrapped it up. We'll see. We'll see if this part gets kept in the edited version or whatever.
Yes, we will.
Yeah. All right. Well, there should be hopefully another part on the website you can go check. It's going to be our after you beat the game kind of with the spoilers, so we can talk about other stuff that we want to talk about, but we didn't want to ruin it for anybody. So please don't click on the link or don't download the link with the one that says spoiler warning on it and go listen to that,
That would
because
not be smart.
yeah, that'll probably ruin the game for you. All right. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll try to do better next time. Is there anything
We
else?
did fine.
Is there anything?
This is our first recording, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything you want to add to it?
No, let's stop.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys.
Is it recording?
Yeah, it's recording now.
All right. This is our spoiler-full
Not spoiler
discussion.
It's for people who've beaten the game and are maybe looking.
Unless you're at the very, unless you've beaten the game, you've seen the credits, don't listen to this.
Yeah, this is our last warning. You can't hold us responsible now because we've given you the warning.
Okay, and the reason, I'm glad David came up with this is because, for me, all the WoW moments, David often talks about WoW moments, especially like in Wind Waker again.
And WoW, we mean WoW, not World of Warcraft. Thanks.
Wow.
Okay.
For me, all the WoW moments were in terms of like story and boss battles.
And okay,
they're all pretty much
let's
spoilers.
start off with the first
For
one.
me, the best. I know your WoW moment you already mentioned when you first meet Zelda. For me, it was when you first get all the pieces of the mask and Zant is like standing right behind you. As soon as you get out of there, right behind you.
Okay.
And he forces Midna into the light world and she's dying. And you have to run back to Hyrule Castle
and the
to find
music's
Zelda.
music's playing.
Yeah, he has the
Okay,
music.
cool.
Let's turn it on real quick.
I think it's,
For whatever reason, I call this the Twilight theme, just because it's a very somber Twilight part of the game.
yeah, and I absolutely love this part. I love the part when you're,
And Midna's dying on the wolf's back, and you're just trying to make it to Hyrule Castle and get to Zelda.
because you don't know what to do.
Yeah, you don't know what to do. You're confused basically.
Right.
That part kind of blew me away. I love the music. I'm sad that it didn't come back later on in the game, because for me this could have easily been like the main thing.
This is the track that I enjoyed the best, that I listen to the most now.
Except that Western theme. You'll love it, damn it. You will love it.
The Western theme.
Yeah. That was the first WoW moment for me. That was the first where I was just like, oh, this is starting to get to me. It was really awesome. Because before that, Midna was just this mysterious character. You didn't have a real attachment to it because you didn't know if your loyalty should lie in this character. My little brother, who I watched play this game for the most part, biggest dork kept saying that, oh, I bet that's Ganondorf's daughter. I bet that's Ganondorf's daughter. Look at her hair. It's just like Ganondorf's. And,
really?
Yeah. Which means, early on in the game, their opinion of Midna is very, confusing. You just don't know. But, it was after this moment. Actually, it was at the time, it was cool. Because right when Zelda realizes the importance of Midna is kind of right when I realized it.
At the end?
No, not at the end. when Zelda decides to give her life force to save Midna,
I got you.
which I'm still confused how that resolved.
Exactly. I was very confused because with that part,
Well,
Zant
didn't
stands
like
behind
Zelda go to like the Twilight World or something?
I don't know, because Zant. Here's the problem with me and my game in the game is that I was still confused. It was like nothing was explained. When Zant was there behind you, I look at it, and then that spirit goes out and tries to attack all the little forest spirits and stuff that you're resurrecting. He goes and attacks Zant, but it looks like he's attacking you or something. I don't know what the heck. I was just like, what the heck is going on?
Maybe it was your crappy Wii camera.
Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, and then but Midna, and everybody knows, you should know by now, it's the Twilight Princess.
It's not actually Zelda, but it's Midna, and that was cool. When you realize that too, that's kind of a wild moment for me also. When you start to realize that Link is kind of just a part of her story. You know what I mean?
And it's okay. See, and it's less about. See, that's the thing. I was really bummed out that Zelda really didn't play a big role in this game at all.
She never plays a huge role. You know what I mean?
Not really. It's called Legend of Zelda.
Yes, I know it's called The Legend of Zelda, but that's just the name of the series. Yeah. Actually, when I was a little kid, that always confused me. I always called Link Zelda.
No, dude, that's not bad. I had a roommate who had never played a Zelda game, never played a Metroid game, and this is when
Metroid also, same thing with Metroid.
Yeah, and then freaking the Wind Waker came out, and I'm sitting there playing it, and my roommate comes back, and he's like, "Oh, so that's Zelda?" And I'm running around with a little kid in a green tunic, and I was like, just utterly disgusted. And I remember I was playing. It was the exact part where you're going into the Hyrule Castle, and it's all black and white, and I'm sitting there playing it, and I look over at him, and he's like sleeping, and I was like, this guy's just unbelievable. He's sleeping through like the best part in this game.
All right, let's go back to story. Wow moments for me. The ending, everything. Like, when you go back to pretty much everything from when you first into Hyrule Castle up to like those last boss fights, I thought was
okay. And
awesome.
the last boss being,
of course, Ganondorf.
Ganondorf or Ganon?
Ganon. Well, no, Ganon and then Ganondorf.
Yeah, I couldn't. Well, first of all, I couldn't stand that first. Okay.
You didn't like the fight with Ganon?
I didn't like the fight with Zelda. Because come on, how many times? How many?
The damn light ball.
The little tennis. How many times are we gonna play that game?
That was just a tribute to Ocarina.
Really?
Yeah.
Because it's cool. It was cool in Link to the Past when you have to do it against. You do it in all
of them. You even do it in Four Swords.
Yeah, but Four Swords is different because you got 4 people. But but in this game it was just ridiculous because it's like it was cool seeing it fleshed out in 3D on Ocarina, but there's no point now to have it. And it was cool. One thing I did like about it is with the Wii remote, I felt like I could time it a lot better because it was like I was timing my sword slashes.
Yeah.
Because I would slash when it would come back and it would read every time because.
I'm surprised you didn't have problems with that part.
Yeah, I had a couple problems, but nothing, not like I had on, I think, on 64.
Well, it was the Ganondorf fights where that that Zelda fight, whatever, that was just, it's the Ganondorf fight.
So you're not talking about Pig Beast Ganon, right?
I'm talking about when Midna puts the mask on, kind of like,
turns into that
beats
weird...
the crap out of Ganon, or Zelda. Remember,
No. This is after you've beaten Beast Ganon.
Beast Ganon, and then
Midna
Hyrule Castle gets destroyed.
Right, and then Midna is killed, or there's only her helmet left, and she gets crushed or whatever.
And then all you see is a big, huge, open Hyrule field, and it's just you with Zelda, not Epona, and you see Ganondorf off on the distance, and he kind of races his horse up, just kind of like Link did earlier in the game, and you realize that it's going to be a huge, epic horse battle with Ganondorf. That moment, it blew my mind, man. Because it was cool. I mean, I know it's different for you, David, because you don't like the horse battling, but I love the horse battling. And I just thought it was
What's wrong with me? Jeez.
It was so cool. I just thought it was so cool. And I love that Zelda was on the back shooting arrows. And of course, there's a lot like that.
Like I was saying, Zelda's just shooting arrows, right?
Yeah.
You don't actually control. I never.
Yeah, no. I was wondering if you could actually control in the Wii version because it'd be cool to have somebody next to you shooting the arrows with the.
But don't you find kind of? Oh, I guess so.
Yeah.
But don't you find it kind of frustrating? Like every game is like the same now. It feels like in Wind Waker. Zelda's sitting there shooting arrows at Ganon, or he's shooting arrows that you have to reflect at Ganon, and
Yeah,
it's
I
just,
know.
It just seems so like, come on.
It was done well.
I want to see something.
It blew me away.
I want to see something crazy, like absolutely, completely crazy. Like the next Zelda is a first-person game or something like that.
So let's talk about the sword battle at the end. Sword battles have never been deep or fleshed out in Zelda games.
No.
They've never been. But
Well,
in this one, it was this... I mean, it rivaled action games. It was a badass sword fight. Now, I can't say that much for you, Dave, because I know you didn't get... You only got like 4 of those 7.
No, because I didn't need him. I sat there and I just rolled around him, and kept rolling around him. He couldn't touch me. He could never touch me. And I just kept rolling around him until I got behind him.
It was epic and long, and it was awesome.
No.
And the music... And the way he just towered over you, and he whipped out his sword, that was so...
I wish it was a lot more difficult.
Awesome.
I wish. The thing is, halfway through the battle...
That would have thrown the balance off if it was like a Devil May Cry caliber sword fight.
No, not
that
like that.
That would be ridiculous.
Like, I wasn't even close to dying. And the thing about it is, too, is that I found a fairy while running around. Like, I think I got half-life once, and I ran away, and I found a fairy.
It was a long series of fights before you got to that point. They didn't want to make it too difficult.
Right, I understand. But as far as the sword battling, here's the thing: I had him locked on the entire game. Locked on. I locked him every time I tried to do a big slash, like the little slash. He just sidestep it and poke me in the side, So halfway through the battle, I all of a sudden decide, you know what? I'm just going to go in there and slash the crap out of him. I'm not even going to lock on him. So I took lock on off, ran straight at him, and when I ran straight at Ganon, he took a big downward swipe at me, completely missed. I ran behind him and just owned him from behind. And then when I found that weakness, I just exploited it, 3 or 4 more times, and he died. And that's when I ended. And that leads me to my finishing blow. It felt so choppy. It looked, yeah, you said that, like, okay, so Ganon's lying on the ground, and then it says finish on the little A button, and you jump up and you finish him. But when you do that, it just, halfway through your jump, all of a sudden it cuts to this scene, and it doesn't even show you really...
It didn't look choppy in the GameCube version. It was smooth.
Really? Maybe it's just the Wii version. I'll show you sometime. But you stab into him, and when you stab into him, they don't really even show you stabbing. They kind of like pan away, kind of, right?
Yeah, you show his face.
Yeah, just show his face. Oh, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, they don't even show the big dramatic scene. Like,
again, I think you're just comparing it to Wind Waker.
Right, and in Wind Waker, that was just, for me, it was just a huge shock and wow and amazing. And in Wind Waker, you go and you deliver the final blow, and you jump up and you stab it Ganon right in the head, and he turns into stone. Like, for me, it was a big shock because it was like this big, huge, mature moment in this entire game that's been like, this big cartoony, kid-looking, silly game, and all of a sudden this huge, mature moment at the end, and it was just so huge and epic almost that I was just absolutely. That's my, like, I can't. Twilight Princess, the final blow doesn't hold up
it was just
to it at all.
Final blow.
Yeah, and then what did you think about the ending when like Midna destroys the?
I thought it was cool. I mean, it wasn't like
I felt bad. I was like, oh, okay, well, if she destroys the mirror, they won't be able to see each other anymore. And yeah, I felt for that. But other than that, I wasn't like, oh, I'm sorry, Midna, you're leaving. And also, I didn't like how Midna looked as like. In princess form. I wanted her to stay as imp form.
Why didn't you like her?
She just didn't look very good. She looked like a Zora kind of almost.
I mean, it looked better than Zant.
No, I know, but wait, how does Zant look again? Oh yeah,
look better than one of those other ugly Twilight people.
Yeah, but the thing about it is like
I thought she looked. I like the way she looked.
Well, no, as an imp.
Yeah, I like the way she turned to Link. It was like she was like something like. Not so bad looking, am I? Or something. Because Link's so used to seeing her in imp form.
No. I actually liked her in imp form a lot better. I just wished she would have been part of the game.
Yeah. Because you have a love for imps. Like, your secret.
Yep, so anything else to talk about as far as the spoiler part? Oh, man, I wanted to talk about the reek fish thing earlier.
Well, so throw it in now. I still think it's a little...
the part, if you've beaten the game, you've obviously gone through the part with the reek fish, and where you go and fish near the mother and daughter, like, rocks, and you catch those red fish that you can, and you're trying to attract that kind of weird beast in the snow peak. Mm-hmm. And For me, I spent literally an hour there trying to figure out how the hell to get that fish. Because I thought you were supposed to get it and use it as bait and lure the monster out. But, so what I did is I caught the fish, it would come out, it would, it would flop around on the floor. I'd pull out my bottle and try to run up there and swipe it into the bottle, and it never happened.
Oh, so you didn't know to change it to a wolf?
I had no clue. I just didn't even think about it, because I should have.
Somebody had to tell me, because I kind of did it right away.
It should have. It should have clicked, because
You never talked to the people. That's the problem, right?
Really?
Were you talking to all the Zoras in the
Yeah,
area?
and they're like, oh yeah, the reek fish smells. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll go get it as bait. I'll go stand by the entrance of Snow Peak. The smell will wander into the mountains, and the thing will come down. Right?
No.
And then I would have this big boss battle with this bad guy. He'd die, and then all of a sudden the snow would melt, and I'd be able to go to wherever I needed to go. And that's the thing. I know I'm not the only person, because I worked at a game store, and of course there's people coming in. And one time this guy was sitting there, and he was talking to his friend. He was like, "Man, I'm at this one part in Zelda, and I'm stuck." And I heard him talking about it, and he was like, "Oh, hey, yeah, man, I'm at this part, and there's this one fish, and it stinks, and I know I need to get it. I just don't know what to do with it." And then I laughed, and he was like, "What's so funny?" And I was like, I was stuck at that part like a week ago. And I tried not to spoil it for him, so I was like, oh, what you need to do is you need to do what you've been doing the entire game with smells.
Yeah.
You need to do that with the reek fish. And he was like, oh! And it just hit him, and you could tell, like, he was like, oh my gosh, that's such, like, I should have figured that out. And I feel the same way. I should have been able to figure that out.
I think maybe you figure out in a conversation with somebody, with one of the Zoras or something.
Oh,
Or
really?
maybe even that girl.
I'll tell you how I figured it out. I looked it up.
Really?
Yeah, I just got so frustrated. It was funny, too, because my mom was up in Austin sitting there watching me play the game, and she was like, oh, well, why don't you shoot it? Shoot it with your claw shot, or shoot it with an arrow and kill it. And I was like, okay, I don't think that'll work. And she got, like, my mom was, like, actually trying to help me figure out what I was supposed to do in Zelda. And she watched me play the she watched me play the Snow Peak dungeon, and she was like, who's that lady? Who's that lady? And I was like, that's his wife. And she's like, well, the monster is so much bigger than her. And then, you know that part where you walk the lady to the mirror?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, see. I was like, Mom, see, I knew she was a bad guy. Because there's no way she was, like, tricking you the entire time.
Yeah.
And then the female monster looks in the mirror and turns around and then does that, and does that little face with the red eyes.
That was pretty creepy.
Yeah, my mom was like, yeah! So it was really one of the most fun times I've had playing games. It was actually quite interesting.
Any other spoiler-worthy stuff about the game? Talk about spoilers.
Not really. I think that's pretty it. I mean, 15 minutes. It's not bad, I guess.
How did you feel about Ilya?
Oh man, yeah, they could have like really made like some romance thing out of this, and
That's not Zelda though.
really,
No.
because that would have been really cool, and that would have been the different. That would have.
It was enough. It was enough of the potential romance that I liked it.
Really? Because see, you know how I'm always looking for games that are very different and unique and like totally do something crazy. And that's I think
Romance.
that's
play,
one of-
Play a Final Fantasy or something.
no, not even Final Fantasy, but
Oh, it's
well,
10.
yeah, I know 10, but not like the last one we played. I'm playing still right now, but I'm talking about like I'm always attracted to games that are very different and yes, Wind Waker. I hate to go back to this again, but I know Wind Waker wasn't that different as far as a Zelda game, but the look and the cell shading, that was a completely something that turned the Zelda world upside down. And
These aren't spoilers, by the way. These are something in the free.
yeah, okay, well, I'll edit it and put it in the other one then. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I'm always looking for a game that absolutely does something completely different, and I don't think this one did it at all.
Dark Cloud 2 was better than Wind Waker.
Yes. Oh wow, really?
Yes.
That's.
Got overshadowed by it, but it was better.
I really do need to go play Dark Cloud 2.
No.
It's on my list. So I think it's like number 18.
Of your list of 1,000 games.
Well, no, I think it's about 50.
Yeah, really?
But again, I just started this list like 2 weeks ago, so.
Okay.
I think this is a good stopping point.
We'll leave you with some Zelda music.
Yeah. That's not bad, dude. Good hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, we'll work on it.
You want me to stop it?
Well, when's the next time we'll be in town?